You're on, Matt.
Attention, everybody. The views and opinions expressed on the show are not necessarily those of Acts Ministry, Acts Media Group, and or their affiliate and subordinate ministries and or nonprofits. So without any further ado, here's the man with the plan to be goofy, but not.
We're always in the crazy mode. It is Friday, and you're listening and watching The Morning Mouth with Johnny Rooster. You're going to have a lot of fun this time because last week I was out on the road traveling, and now I'm back in Springfield, Missouri, ready to talk to our special guest about a very special topic. That's right, girls and money. What more exciting topic can you get than that? Girls and money, that should grab everybody's attention. We are here for the most sensational topics possible. But obviously, I'm in the studio, and my guest is not. She had a little positive test, so we're going to just not bring her in because of 6-foot restrictions. Ashley Martin, are you at least 6 feet away from me right now?
Luckily, I am, yes.
Yeah, in fact, your home is more near the Kansas City area now. Is that correct?
Yep. I'm Overland Park, just a little bit out of Kansas City.
That's right. You're coming in from Toto Land in Kansas now. Well, what's your connection to Springfield? A lot of our listeners are in the Springfield area, but what is your connection to Springfield?
So I'm actually born in... oh, you're going to have to ignore my voice. That's so sad.
All right.
I'm actually born and raised in Springfield. So
Born
I moved
and
to
raised.
Kansas City 5 years ago
So
for
what-
a job offer.
Okay, so are you still doing that type of work, or did you do something else now that you're up in the bigger city?
Yeah, so I still am a financial analyst. I work in recovery for a bank up here, and then run a business on the side. So.
All right. Well, you've got a lot of things going. In fact, you're known in different names in different formats, I think.
Yes, online I'm known as Alea Sarai, and it started as kind of an alter ego thing, and I have little girls, so it was more to protect identity. We all know that online you have to be a little bit careful, so
That was
now
just-
I just kind of started going by Alea.
Alea, yeah. And there's so many names. I was trying to think, who am I going to meet? Is it going to be Alea or someone else? You know, so it's always fun to know who you are. And then the exciting part for me was I was going to meet you in the studio, and then you couldn't make it. So, you know, things change.
Oh, they do.
Yeah.
They do.
I think this year has handed us change, if nothing else.
Yeah, if we haven't learned to roll with change by now, then, you know, I don't think we ever will.
Well, I haven't personally had the opportunity to meet you in person. However, I've noticed that you have a flamboyance and a bounce about you, and there's really something special about you in particular. And the thing that I'm noticing is that you're creative and you're forward about helping young people, especially young girls, in the money management department. And that is not a category that most people go after. They're usually after couples counseling, people out of college, whatever it is. They are looking for financial management towards retirement. Tell me, how did this passion of guiding and coaching young girls into money management, how did that start for you?
So I think it really started, completely by accident. So I started mentoring in the inner city schools in Kansas City. When I moved here, I didn't know a lot of people, but I thought it was a good way to get involved. And the kids were so amazing. I mean, they just absorbed the information and had so many questions. And they had a lot of questions about their own parents and about their own kind of lifestyle that they were raised in. But I saw a special spark that interested me with young girls because it seems that their parents talk to them even less than their sons. And I'm not sure if it's a bias where they thought maybe that women wouldn't have to worry about their finances as much when they got older. But for some reason, the very little amount that little boys are getting talked to about finance, it was even less for girls. So that's really how this whole thing started, was me wanting to reach out to girls and young women and give them this really empowering information.
Okay, well, so that's obviously an important button for you. Were you financially encouraged as a young person?
Yeah, I think I was really fortunate. My parents own restaurants, and so they're entrepreneurs themselves, and they started me. My 8th grade graduation gift was a portfolio of mutual funds. So
Hey, that's everybody's 8th grade graduation gift. Hey, I have some portfolio of mutual funds. Welcome to the real world.
Awesome.
That is awesome.
Bears are awesome. So, and we went to Edward Jones back in the day. You used to get this huge green folder
Yeah.
full of information. And I sat down and went through it. And since then, I mean, I was obsessed.
You were in the nerd club. You were in the nerd club for sure.
Absolutely, I'm definitely a math and finance nerd.
Now, do you have a pocket protector? Do you ever wear a pocket protector? Because we got to know.
You know, I don't. I'm a very fashionable nerd.
Okay.
So
I think that's what most people get from you is fashion, not so much nerdery. So, yeah, there's no pocket protector that I could find. I saw a guy the other day that had 8 pins. I was checking about number 7. I think I would forget that I had that many pins in my pocket at that point. That's a lot of pins.
I've never understood that.
That's 8 pins in a man's pocket. But anyway, you're not that type of nerd. However, getting a portfolio of mutual funds on your 8th grade graduation, what a phenomenal set of parents. Entrepreneurial parents. Tell me a little about them.
So they actually still live. Well, they live in Ozark, but they own the Village Inns in town and in the surrounding towns. So shout out Village Inn, guys, go check it out. It's that time of year for pies, and that's kind of their thing. But anywho,
do they still own the Village Inn in Ozark?
They do. Ozark, Springfield, Republic.
I have a network meeting every Wednesday at Ozark Village Inn, so that's perfect. Free Pie Wednesday, you know, with your purchase, you get a free slice of pie on Wednesday. So that's kind of their poll for that group.
It is. So, so since they grew up, and my dad, the restaurants were passed down. Well, not as many as are now, but passed down to him from his dad. So he really had that advantage of talking through entrepreneurship as he grew up, and they really did the same thing for me. So I started investing in the stock market really early. I mean, by the time I graduated high school, I was pretty well versed in trading. And then throughout college, I did a lot of day trading and other stuff, and I loved it. I love learning about market forces and economics and how to build personal wealth. So even though I work in corporate finance now, that's a passion of mine, so I wanted to be able to pass that down to the next generation.
Well, if you're just tuning in, you're on the Morning Mouth with Johnny Rooster, and this is Axe Media Group Live. But if you're not watching it live, that's okay. You're going to be in a place where you can learn a lot. We're talking to Ashley Martin up near Kansas City. She's talking to us about her project. It's called tinyguru.com, and that way we can explain to young people, especially girls, how to manage money. Now, Ashley has talked about how she at 8th grade actually was able to get a portfolio of mutual funds from her parents, and at a very young age began investing in day trading. So tell us more. Your parents are phenomenal entrepreneurs, owners of a restaurant. You grew up in the atmosphere. There's so many people, myself included, who did not grow up that way, and emotional illiteracy is rampant in our culture. In fact, most people, balance a checkbook is outdated, so now what do? They have these debit cards and these charge cards, and they run around and hope for the best.
Absolutely.
So how do we rein this culture of rampant lack of knowledge? How do you bring that in to even interest people in our candy culture today?
Right. I think so. There's one of the things, the very first things I talk to kids about, and I do send some stuff home for the parents because obviously we learn everything at home. The kids by the age of 7 have some sort of financial framework set, and from watching their parents spend money without credit cards, from every time they hear them complain about, oh, I'm not going to be able to pay this bill, or we don't have money for this vacation. They already have this set in their mind, and most people continue those traits throughout their adult life. So the very first thing is talking to kids about what I call the bling trap, and it's our obsession with not having wealth but looking like we do. And it's our obsession with always keeping up with the Joneses and wearing our money or driving our money or using it in ways that really deplenish our wealth rather than build it up. So that's the very first thing that I usually talk to kids about. How do we learn to build money in a way that's responsible, that gives us a safety net, that gives us safety and security that we need, instead of buying into this consumer culture?
So you're talking about the bling trap is something where you're just avoiding this impulse spending about anything shiny, anything exciting.
Yeah.
Kids in the store these days, they're just wanting everything on the shelf, and the mom will give in eventually, and that just teaches and reinforces the kid, hey, if you beg long enough, you're going to get it.
Right. Every time you give in, you're reinforcing behavior for sure. They learn that money isn't something that you make a decision, you set a goal, you follow that goal until you reach it. That's something that kids really have to learn, is that they set goals early and they work towards them and not get deterred. And it's definitely not something they're learning from their parents. So I think it's equal part personal responsibility, because we live in a society that that is not something that we teach our kids. We kind of teach them there'll always be something there to save them, to help them, especially financially. And that is especially true for girls.
Well,
they need to know there is no financial safety net.
What are some personal responsibility things that girls can learn? What are some specific things?
Okay, so the main thing that you need to teach your kids, the best thing that I can tell you is for them to learn personal responsibility, both in controlling their impulses and in their money, is they need to have money to manage. I mean, they need to have decisions to make as well on their own. So giving them an allowance, however you feel about that, and then asking them to learn to manage it, that's the best way that you can teach them this personal responsibility. And tell them exactly what's going to be covered under their allowance and exactly what isn't. I mean, exactly what you're going to cover as a parent. So if you tell them, obviously their food, all that's covered, anything else they want above and beyond that is covered by allowance. No matter what, you're not going to help them pay it. And then they have to learn to set goals. And when they do really want something, or they have plans with friends and they're suddenly short on money, saying no and sticking to that teaches them you overspent. There's no more. There's no credit card to put it on. There's no parent credit card to put it on. So you learn to manage your money, and that really sticks with them.
Well, that's a good point there, Ashley. I had this idea when I was growing up, old school, that you got to earn your money, and allowances are like a free program just handing out. But you're using an allowance as an opportunity to teach spending habits, among other things.
Yeah, and I think that it depends on every family how you want to make that work. But I see more allowance as something that is earned, and you can base it on, as long as your chores are done, as long as your grades are good, as long as you can set a set of criteria for them to get their allowance, so it feels more earned than just money that you're handing them.
Yes.
But the really important thing is that you have to replace what you would have been buying for them, replace it with what they now have to pay for with their allowance, and it really teaches them to manage their own decision-making processes.
That makes sense. A lot of people would agree with you, but they haven't translated that money management life skill to the way their children think. Do you know what I'm talking about? The thinking is mixed up. It's just reacting to what they're told. Like, you're supposed to save money, but they don't know why. Or you're supposed to not buy this because that's not the right time, but they don't know why.
Sure.
How do they think right along this process? It's a good one to say, okay, there's personal responsibility. You need some money to manage. Allowances based on productivity, whatever. But how do I think the right way toward money? How does that happen?
Yeah. So that is the biggest missing piece. For us as adults, that's what never happened, that mindset piece. And that financial framework and that decision-making, that really never, it just happened however it happened. And unfortunately, our kids now, it's based a lot on pop culture and what they see online, which is really unfortunate. So that mindset piece is what's even more important now. So I really try to teach kids there's why it's important to think about money, why it's important to save money, and why building wealth even matters. And it's not for the sake of having money. It's for safety. It's so you can help others. That's a huge piece. When your family, your own children, your parents, your community, your church community, when somebody needs something, you can't help them if you haven't taken the steps to build that wealth. It's a tool for you to help other people. as well as yourself. So building up that mindset of why it's really important and how it keeps us safe, especially as women, when we get older, if you don't have that financial net set for yourself. That's why women get into bad relationships. That's why they don't get back out of bad relationships. There's a huge piece around our own safety and just well-being that's wrapped up in building wealth. So I think having really candid, honest conversations with your kids is the first step to all that.
A lot of people want to know, what age is a good age to start talking about money, and how do you introduce it? So what is a good age to begin the conversation about money? Are you there? Okay.
I think I lost you.
There you go. You're back. I just didn't hear you for a moment, but can you hear me? Okay, so something happened there with the signal. I'm going to contact our engineer and see what we can do about that. Can you hear me now, Ashley? Okay. Keypad, contacts, J. Ashley, can you hear me? Hey, Jay.
What's up?
On the air, but her voice got disconnected somehow. So just checking back with you on that.
I can hear her on this call.
Oh, you can hear her voice?
Yeah, I heard her talking to me just now. Am I on the show?
No. I actually called you because I don't hear her anymore. And I don't believe she hears me. Can you hear me, Ashley? Okay, so we had a little difficulty there with the technicality. As far as what I'm doing, I can't hear her. If you can hear her, that's awesome. Ashley, if you're still there, stay on the line, and we'll find out what's going on. The engineer's on his way up to rectify that situation. As we're talking to Ashley Martin, she's talking about how to manage money early in life, and that's always a good idea. She talked about the bling trap, where you're not supposed to fall into the idea of making a purchase, like when the kid's in the store and they want something right now, and getting an allowance so that you have to have money in order to manage money. That's a good thing, because if you don't have access to money, you'll never know how to manage it. So how do you get a good allowance for a kid? You base it on that type of kid and who they are, and it's important not to just hand them money that they spend, but to show them how their money works. If they overspend, they don't get something. They're just out, and that's the way it is. I'm not sure if you...
We're getting her on the line.
Okay, I didn't know if you could hear her, or I was trying to as well. So when you come back, Ashley, we'll be glad to have you back on about that. We're talking about the owner of tinyguru.com. She now lives in Overland Park, Kansas, has grown up in Springfield, Missouri. Her parents own the Ozark Village Inn, so come by and see them for their wonderful pie. But we also want to tell you that there's so much we like to give on this show. The Morning Mouth, we like to give to people. And that's why we're giving information like this. We want you to know about it. So we're calling her back, and we'll see what's going on. We'll get back into it here. Okay.
It actually may have been her phone that disconnected from that.
Possibly.
Hello.
Are you there, Ashley?
I'm here.
Okay, I can hear you again. I apologize for the interruption. Apparently, I just dropped off. I'm not sure exactly why, but that's all right. So if you can hear me.
Yep, we're good.
All right. Sorry about that. I'm glad for you being here, especially. We have the topic of how young is what's the appropriate age to start talking to kids about money, and how is it introduced? Is there a step-by-step?
Yeah. So there's really no age that's too young for the underlying pieces. And when I say that, I mean those really early pieces that we talked about. So even as young as 5 years old, those the really step-by-step that you can do is to involve your kid in little things like use a trip to the grocery store, use everyday situations to talk about money
Sure.
and what things cost. At really early ages, kids don't even know where your money comes from or really what you spend it on. They really don't understand why you go to work. And so just little things like saying, hey, this is how much we're going to spend on groceries and this is why. And then have them go to the store, use cash, have them hand the cash to the cashier and get the cash back.
Yes.
You could practice counting that with them. Those little steps just help them understand the transactional side of money. And they also understand, hey, we set a list. This is what we're going to get because we don't want to waste our money on things we don't need, like candy bars or bag of chips. Little things like that really start to build up that framework.
One of the fun things that I did that may be a little unconventional, when I have 4 boys, and my kids were young, I would get them a blank piece of paper and they'd start shopping. So they'd go online and then they'd start buying things from Walmart or wherever they go. But they just go to different stores and buy it in their mind, and they would figure out their budget. How much are your expenses going to be every month? And they would piece together what they wanted, and then they would decide, how are you going to earn this and what are you going to do? So it was kind of a figure it out, build it up from nothing and decide, okay, how close are you to reality? You see what I'm saying? They're trying to match all these purchases in their mind. Hey, I want this kind of car. I want these kind of clothes. I want this kind of food, or I'm going to do this. Now what? What will I do to support that? And here's what I like to do. So based on that, is this matching up? So that was a good way to kind of match their expenses and their projected income.
Yeah, that's great.
But it's always fun to play games and have that built in. My boys would guess the amount of the purchase when we were at the grocery store, and I'd have them guess, and the cashier was really fun. We live in a small town, and they were ready. You know, they're like, okay, boys, what do you think the total will be for this purchase? So they could get an idea of how much things cost.
Right, yeah. That is a perfect start. And what will naturally happen from that, you talked about step by step, they're going to have a lot of questions. And just having real conversations that you might think maybe over their head at the time, but just candid conversations with them, really, really help to build that interest so that by the time they're middle school age, they know so much more than some adults, just based on their curiosity.
In fact, I was just imagining you as a young person knowing more than a lot of adults. What kind of things did you do? Were you actually budgeting when you were a kid, or what was going on with you?
Yeah, so when I was a kid, we actually did not get an allowance when I was a kid. But I did talk to my parents so much about money that I really did understand the little bits that I did earn, around the neighborhood when that used to be a thing. You go to your neighbor's house and do some birthday money, all of that. I definitely understood saving that for bigger things that I wanted later on instead of taking it to the gas station and getting $20 worth of candy.
It seems like there's some kids that money burns that hole in their pocket and they want to spend. And I was the kid that was wanting to earn. I would sell. We lived in the woods, so my reference was go find an unusual rock, sell it to my sisters for a quarter. I'm saying there's no rock in the world like this one. It's a little fist-sized pebble, and I'm saying only 25 cents because it's worth a fortune. There's nothing like it in the world. And I could get away with that. Yeah, there you go. Jay is here. His name is Jason Cobb. He's the engineer.
I don't think she can hear me. Can you hear me?
Can you hear him? That's what we're checking. No.
No.
Okay, because I was going to say if she could hear you, I was going to say if you had a question or I can ask if you think of something. But it's fun to have somebody knowledgeable. To me, I'm very impressed that you were able to be educated as a young person by your parents. And then you were able to translate that education into the real world and then turn around and help other people. So how many young people have you been able to help, or how do you measure what you're doing now? Tell us about what you do now and how it works.
Yeah, so right now, obviously, the world kind of turned upside down. So previously I had, I started with some of the inner city schools like I talked about, and then was expanding to a Catholic school system up here, Scion Schools, as well as working through Boys and Girls Club courses. Everything had to switch to virtual. So
Yeah.
So yeah, so it's been a little bit of a learning curve for me too. But luckily we have virtual courses. And those are about to relaunch so that kids will be able to do them over the as soon as the year starts in January. So that's really what we're doing right now. But before it really was in person, going to teach kids face to face, which I really love that interaction. But
What is your training in? What is your education and training?
My education and training.
Yes.
Okay, so I have undergraduate degrees in finance and economics, and then a master's degree in financial analysis.
And what did you set out to do with your life? Are you doing what you set out to do?
Yeah, I always thought I would work in corporate finance, which is what I got a job in as soon as I graduated. So that is what I set out to do. I quickly realized I actually wanted to work with people. So
yeah,
this is more along what I love.
Different kind
Even
of
after
corporate.
all of those degrees, I kind of switched over into something that I really love now.
Well, I wanted to introduce you to Jay Cobb. He's alongside here, and
Can you hear me now?
I can.
so he may have a
Hey.
question. We're both very interested in the topic of financial soundness. One thing that Jay has done is he's been doing his own personal watching the market. So I think that's fascinating. Technology allows people to do things they haven't done in the past. They relied on stockbrokers, etc. You sounded like you'd done some things like that as well. To me, that's fascinating because you're able to manage things that I'm not as educated in. So
How do you find out what their bigger goal is and then attach that to the savings that they're trying to set aside? You know, like what examples do you use as how far in the future they should plan or could plan?
Yeah. So generally, I don't talk about what we would consider really long-range planning, like college, all of those things, your first house. I don't talk about those things unless I'm talking to high school students. And generally, I focus on elementary and middle school. So we talk about big purchases in short, medium, long-term goals, but short might be something like something you want but don't actually need. So something you wouldn't ask your parents for, like a specific pair of tennis shoes. That's something your parents wouldn't have normally bought you. And I know for us that seems like a frivolous expense, but for a kid that's something they would really have to save up for that would feel really extra and special to them. So it really just depends on the age range. A new bike, things like that are things that you're going to set goals for a kid.
Do you remember the first time one of your students actually bought that big purchase?
Well, the first thing that I remember is probably one of my daughters, and they're because I have 4 daughters.
mm-hmm.
So obviously they were my first students. But watching them really set those goals and then get sidetracked by things like Christmas is a really good example because what they don't get for Christmas they want to buy. So can I go buy this $10 LOL doll? All the stuff that adds up.
yeah.
But really watching them save and then finally get something in the pride that you feel in it. I think it's the same basis as why you shouldn't just buy your child a car when they haven't done anything. If they've not saved any money for it, they don't appreciate it the same. So my best example is my oldest daughter who wants to go into astrophysics. I have no idea where that came from. She really wanted this telescope. I mean, it's like a real large telescope.
Right.
And she worked after-school jobs. She saved money. We put part of it in investment accounts and part of it in savings for more immediate goals.
Right.
And she was able to buy that for herself. And so it's something that she really, really values.
Well, that's interesting. I think I'm hearing a little bit of an echo on your end. I'm trying to think if you were closer to your phone just now, if you could say something again.
All right, let me see.
That's better.
That's better, yeah.
That's better.
Okay.
So
Great.
that's all right. It's just that with this live call thingamajig, we've already had a little glitch here. But if you guys are tuning
We've
in,
never had this much trouble with this before.
and
Except
no,
for
this
the
is
very
you're
beginning.
kind of like the cup on the end of the string for us. You know, those
Yeah.
old tin cups, and you have this the wires. Like
Next time, Jay, I'll show you how to just switch the camera.
we'll
angles.
we'll introduce ourselves to the 21st century next time for sure.
Well, I thank you, and I apologize for that glitch. I should have been here, and I was doing something. I was doing a short-term interest.
Yeah. When you pursue short-term interest, sometimes you get sidetracked. What we're trying to say.
And things can go wrong while you're on the
I'm
other
like,
track.
I was alone in the room, and I haven't engineered the show, so I just put on the mic and start
We'll
talking.
have to change that.
And
Yeah.
then there was this quiet side of you that I wasn't used to, Ashley. So it's like I can't hear you, and you may not hear me. I don't hear you. This is not going to happen the best for a live show. So I called on the air. I'm like calling the engineer on the phone. Hey, you know what? I don't hear the guest.
We were right down the hall.
Is this growing for you? Are you finding more and more students? Do they enroll in your class, or are you just or are they just exposed to you through a program?
Yeah. How do they find you, and how do you train them?
Yeah. So, well, right now it's all virtual. So it's a lot through word of mouth locally, and then my social media presence, I suppose.
Is
So,
there anything we can
but-
do specifically to steer people toward you? Do you want us to? I mean, we put up the tinyguru.com on the screen.
That's good.
Okay.
Yeah, tinyguru.com is perfect. We have a free mini-series that is December 15th, so you can sign up for that on the website, and then we have courses launching next month as well.
We should put that up on our website. that
Free
link.
mini-series. Now that's
Nice.
that's very.
Is
good.
it okay if we put your link on our website for a month?
Yeah, that'd
Okay.
be amazing.
And you have what age are you reaching out? You said elementary. Is that normally a specific group, an age group that you're looking to reach?
Yeah, so these online courses are kindergarten through 8th grade.
Kindergarten
And they're split
through
into
8th
3
grade.
age groups, but yeah.
Now I put on the title because I'm a sensationalist. Girls and money. You know, I figured those topics. Just get right down to it. Girls and money. That's our
perfect.
topic. You
Love
know,
it.
deal with it. And this is a faith-based radio or TV broadcast, so you know it really blends well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm always stirring the pot as hard as I can.
Well, the one thing the church is made up of is girls and money.
There you go.
If you don't find girls and money at the church,
Yeah,
I mean, you're
in the wrong place.
Yeah, you're in the wrong place.
We definitely like to help young people with financial matters. What about people that are not so young, like myself, that didn't have the education and the training? We didn't have the 8th grade portfolio parents that says, hey, here's your investment portfolio. Welcome to 8th grade graduation. You know, I was a little different kind of kid. What can you do to help some older people as well?
Yeah, so in general, I try to speak to parents on my personal social media a bit, but I am publishing a new set of resources on the website that will be specifically for parents. But besides that, I would say really just start. There's great podcasts and other things you can listen to while you're in the car. Just try to start this kind of journey of self-education and learn little bits and pieces where you can. But my main thing that I encourage people to do, especially this time of year, is find out where you're at, because most people don't even know where they're at financially. So sit down on old school pen and paper, every single credit card.
Okay.
What's your balance? Every checking account, what's your balance?
Yeah.
Find out every dollar that's going out, and then look at it all in front of you in print. And most people will be so shocked.
That's true. It's funny how people
didn't
wouldn't
know
even
where they were.
wouldn't even know where they financially are on their financial map. They got this blank map. They can't even find their location, all their coordinates. Help me, I'm lost.
Help me, what do I do?
Men in particular are
Men
visual.
don't ask for.
We don't ask directions,
No.
and we are visual. So I'm putting up my mental visual of a blank map and a guy trying to find himself financially on that map.
Are you missing the actual interaction between them physically, like the actual physical classroom, or is this virtual thing seem to be catching on, and you might prefer it in some way?
I very much miss the actual classroom. For me, that was the interaction with the kids and the questions they asked, and just their energy. You know, was was great for me to learn as an educator, and for me to kind of change the curriculum as I went. But I'm trying to make the virtual as interactive as possible. So that's the change for the ones that are launching next, is trying to hold live back and forth interaction with the kids just virtually. So, but yeah, I definitely miss the classroom.
Yeah, nothing hits
I love.
harder than losing your audience. That's your tangible audience. It feels different.
Do you find that the virtual one does expand your access? Because you can talk to a child anywhere around the world or the country or any English-speaking country.
Yeah, it definitely does do that. So that's amazing, and that'll definitely be what I stick to going forward. I mean, as most businesses will, because that's something that really can't go away. So,
is your business funded by subscriptions or another method? How are you getting paid for your work?
So it would be the payments directly from school districts, and then also, so virtual is just direct enrollment fees from parents.
So you're introducing your idea to school districts.
Yes.
And you're part. So you're becoming already part of a curriculum at some schools.
Yeah. That's already it's hold on. Sorry.
Right.
COVID. It's been a little tricky, obviously, but yes, I'm already have contracts with schools here, so that's.
Well,
that is great.
I wanted the people that are watching and listening, maybe even after this is live, they're going to come back to it. Girls and Money, I mean, who's not going to stop at that one?
Right.
We have to realize how powerful this could be. Tell us a little about you. I believe, what is your background is not, it's not Caucasian. It's not me. It's different, and you're different, and I like that because you have something valid to say. I'm used to the same voices. You sound like a fresh voice. Tell me about you personally.
About me. So, well, I told you that I am from Springfield. My mom is actually from Germany. So I am half German and half black. So that that in itself has probably not a good thing, but it, unfortunately, this made me stand out as far as there are not a lot of women of color in the finance field, especially not in this form of the finance field. But I think it makes me feel an extra set of responsibility around getting my voice out there and being a good role model.
Another thing I noticed about you was you seem very young. You look like you're early 30s. So
yeah,
possibly that's what you are.
30s.
Yeah. So your youth and everything about you is not the culture of finance that I thought of. So it is got more attention.
Now you said probably not a good thing.
That
shocked me.
Was that because of what were some barriers? Half black, half German. What's the barrier?
Does that really make a difference?
And it's not that it's created a barrier for me. I just mean it's too bad that makes me stand out in fields like this. And then working a corporate finance job, obviously when you sit in a boardroom, that's not the face that you're going to generally see, but I'm really proud of that because making diversifying those kind of spaces, I think it's great.
Well, as a young woman of color, I think that's an interesting voice because that's not my standard in my head voice for this material. I'm interested because of that. Maybe that is an advantage in that regard.
Oh yeah.
Well, I'm impressed. I wasn't aware of that, and I was just so impressed by the fact that you are becoming part of school curriculums that teach young children how to manage money and prepare and actually understand the real world financial place that they're going to be in, that they're going to have to function in. You know what I mean? There's already that structure, and it works a certain way, and you're teaching them at a very young age to prepare and to understand it in the real world way. I'm impressed by that.
I'm thinking of all the future gold diggers that won't be there. It's so funny because girls sometimes fall into that trap and sometimes they don't, but when it does, it gives that stigma. And I'm so thankful to a culture that can embrace education and application instead of just the same old we assume this about other people. So thank you for the work you're doing specifically.
Oh, thank you. Thank you.
You're welcome.
That's why we focus on. That's why girls was important to me.
Yeah.
I did one of my original posts when I started talking about this was teaching your daughter to marry well is not a life plan, which I got a little bit of backlash on that one, but I think it's a real conversation that we need to have, even in the back of parents' minds. They think at some point someone else is going to be responsible for their daughter's finances and not them, and that may not be the case.
So just marrying that 85-year-old multimillionaire for love is not enough, is what you're
Turns out that's not a great plan.
Not enough. Okay. So I'm on the light side a lot. This morning mouth is, as the name suggests, it is a rant of different ideas. Many times I'm talking to people that are different walks of life, and most of them lately have been involved with the nonprofit sector. So I was eager to get on the entrepreneurial side. That's been a real passion of mine. Is as an entrepreneur, I do my own cartooning, my own caricature art, and I want to incorporate caricatures of business owners into the theme that they're promoting. So it'd be a caricature of the business owner promoting his or her product or service in that fashion, so people can't ignore it. So yeah, I'm intrigued by this.
I love that.
Yeah, it's something unusual.
Did you get a chance to see the opening where it shows the art that he's done?
Oh, did you show that?
Yeah, that's how you show
Well,
starts.
on this show, when they air it, it's got a little caricature art of myself and Pastor Matt. They call him on the show, and it's up on the screen. So
yeah, you should check it out. 'Cause
Johnny
you could probably get
Rooster,
one.
and we want to do caricaturized, personality-driven type of things. And I think for you, the tiny guru, you could be the tiny guru lady. I'm seeing it. I can see it.
Now, why girls? Did you see real challenges that were unique to girls that you wanted to address? Because I wonder.
And that's good to remember this.
What about the
because
boys?
I had asked that earlier when you weren't here,
Oh,
but
sorry.
say it again because people are tuning in. They need to hear this.
Why girls? Did you see a unique set of challenges that girls face that made you feel like you should prioritize girls in this topic?
Yeah. So like I was talking about, I think a main point that I saw was that parents really just weren't talking to their girls as much as they were their boys. If at all. Most kids don't get any kind of financial education from their parents, but girls are far less likely to. And that's what I kept seeing over and over. Was that the younger boys that I would talk to would have at least had some conversation with their dad about the household money and about what they were earning and about jobs and careers especially, while parents talk to their girls far less about careers and explaining wealth building and all of these things to girls. So they're already starting off at that disadvantage just from not having those conversations. So that's why I really wanted to make sure that girls do, I feel like, face unique challenges in the fact that, like we talked about, people don't expect them always, and it's a generalization, but people don't always expect them to be the breadwinner or to go and have these amazing careers or to have, everything else. They expect them to have to balance that with family or just be a homemaker. So I think it's a disadvantage.
Do you think women should become financially independent at a certain, and the way they think, or should they always look for completion in someone else? Because people talk about, I'm not complete without somebody else. What is your thought on relationships and money?
I think that codependency, that can never lead to a truly, if you do want to have an equal relationship, if you're fully codependent on another person, how are you going to build that relationship? Now, I say that inside of, I am Christian, I am Catholic. I do believe that there are some marital roles for men and women. I do understand that it's always a balancing act. So I think giving girls as many tools as you can so they can earn their own money, build their own wealth, that gives them something to bring into that relationship as an equal.
Well, I personally am grateful because as a pastor, the Bible describes a virtuous woman, and a virtuous woman that they describe in the Bible is not one who is in need. She is absolutely capable.
Has her own business.
She's capable, has her own business, and is fully functioning on her own and is not in need of anyone or anything, but rather is a massive contribution and vital to her community. So I appreciate what you're teaching, and I think that that's amazing, really amazing. Bravo.
If you have just tuned in or you wanted to know more, there's always tinyguru.com. I believe that is on the screen. And we're talking to Ashley
Yep.
Martin. She has founded this system of training, especially younger girls that are elementary, kindergarten through 8th grade, how to manage money. And is there anything else before we wrap this up that you haven't talked about that you thought should be mentioned, or at least mentioned again before we go?
Sure. I think the most important takeaway for parents is no matter what you do, just to, if you involve your children in these conversations, candid conversations in everyday situations of using money, of when you're going to work, explaining that you're earning money that then pays bills around the house, those little things put your kid leaps and bounds ahead of what other children would have known at that point, and it really kicks off this process of them learning and being curious that will serve them really well when they get older.
I was down in a classic cafe in Atlanta last week, and I saw a tree with money on it. Now, it wasn't real money, but I was just confused. Money really does grow on trees? What's going on? But it is funny how they had tree with money. And why do we think about money growing? What does that concept mean to you? Before we get out of here, does growing money mean something specific to you?
It does. For me, growing money is all about our freedom, the freedom with our time and our freedom to do what we want that gives us passion in this world. So when we invest money and let our money grow on its own without us having to actually do anything, building that wealth gives us time to pursue what we want, our passions of the world, the freedom to travel the world with our kids if we want to, without having to. The whole point of building wealth is that at some point you will never have to think about money. Do what you want, donate to your church, donate to the causes that mean a lot to you, and make a difference in this world with the tools that you have given yourself.
And does investing start the same way? Is there a certain path for investing?
Well, a path for investing.
Yeah, when you're young, is there a good start for investing? What does that first look like when you're new?
Yeah, a really good start for investing is explaining the difference. So we talked about short and long-term goals. Explaining to your kids what a savings account is versus what investing is. You can open a custodial brokerage for your kid that will still be in their name, but also obviously you will manage it as a parent. It's a really good way to get started. Talk about a company that they like Disney. Put money in that, and they can check that. They can check that balance every week. Watch how it goes up, how it goes down.
Yeah.
It's a really good chance to teach them the basics of economics in the market without in a very fun, interactive way. And then they understand the money that they put in that investment is long term. You're not going to touch it. You're not going to take it out, especially when it goes down. You do not just leave it there. It's
Right.
fine. That's really the best way to get them started, is to split their money up in that way.
Has COVID affected you at all financially?
Whew, yes. Yes, for sure. I was actually consulting with another company. With this also, running some social media and financial stuff for them, and I lost that income completely because they shut down.
So don't be
definitely
discouraged. Even the people that are in the know are having some different things to consider. For sure.
Absolutely.
And you're investing in
That's
the
why we
future.
need these emergency funds.
Yes.
You're investing something valuable in the future, and that is the knowledge and understanding and experience at a young age that can really benefit somebody throughout life.
Well, whatever name you choose, because I've seen several, I think you're doing a great job.
Yeah.
Phenomenal young lady. Really, truly, there's a lot of people that can listen and learn from what they've heard here today. And I
Our
hope
boys
they do.
knocking down the door to get in the class is what I'm wondering. I wouldn't be surprised if they are.
They probably would be if they.
You know, I'm going to weigh in
show
here
show your picture.
on the last
This is Matt.
last minute. Hello, Ashley.
You're surrounded now.
Hi.
It's very nice to have you on here, but It's really good. I believe it's really good what you're doing, and I wish that they had this program for young males as well. Because I was really, really, really bad with money up until about a year ago. I was living paycheck to paycheck. And so now I'm able to explain to my children the necessity of having at least a month or two worth of funds built up just in case something happens. Like, I don't know, like let's say there's
I need tires.
let's say there's a nationwide pandemic and they
something
shut
like
the
that.
government down.
Something small.
Yeah, just a
Something
little
along
thing.
those lines happens.
Yeah.
Yeah, that emergency fund is kind of important. And people are finding that out.
Yeah.
Well, thank you for doing what you do. We really
Yes,
do
truly.
appreciate it. And I think the world needs more people like you.
So you can find us here on Axe Media Group. That's ACTS Media Group. So Ashley, just go there. You can find this, and anybody you know that you want them to watch what you did today, even with a technical glitch, it was phenomenal. I do appreciate you being part
Dennis
of the
said
morning
we
Mouth.
handled it well.
Well, good. We got a recommend. One of our listeners already said we handled
I was like,
it well.
of all times for
There you
Skype
go.
to mess up.
There you go. The one time they leave the room.
Well, Skype didn't mess up. We don't know. It may have been her phone disconnected, or it could have been a glitch in the computer.
Anything.
But
I should have been here. I apologize for that.
But we're glad you were hanging on for it, Ashley. So have a great day, and I'll look forward to one day meeting you in person.
Absolutely. Have a great day, guys.
All right.
Thanks
Thank
for
you.
having
Take
me.
care. So that was Ashley Martin. We were talking to her. She's of tinyguru.com. If you want to know more about how she handles money with her young audience, kindergarten through 8th grade, especially in the public school system, go to tinyguru.com for more information on that. Always on the Morning Mouth. We're overwhelmed with the amazing guests we have and glad to have them along.
if you want to get a hold of Johnny Rooster, go to roostercreates@gmail.com.
There you go.
That is up there. I have popped that up on the screen when you were talking about
Yes.
earlier.
Putting together some artwork for
Yeah,
your business.
like this artwork right here. Like you did that. There's a couple of
Imagine
caricatures of
yourself
us.
in a caricature for your business promoting your product or service.
All right. Well, it's time for us to get out of here, Johnny.
All right, it's been wonderful. Glad to have you. And it's a Friday, one more week before the holidays. So I'll be around next week. And then a little break for the new year.
All right. Bye, everybody.
Yeah, thanks for joining us.